Please be seated.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me say good night. I must admit that the atmosphere looking alright, and looking around, and I could see some familiar face looking back at me. I could see some from the future and some from the past. I look around and see plenty carnival enthusiasts. So since we all here to support the cause, let me start with a tremendous round of applause. Boom, 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 la bam, ba bam, boom, skeba dum, bye, lam, ba ba boom, ba ba, ba da da dim, ba ba boom, ba boom, de da boom, la ba boom, ba boy, ba da da do do, boom, 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 le la ba bam, la da da da, dim boom, de la ba bam, ba bam. I don't. Nobody here would object. I want to introduce a man who I really respect. I don't know if everybody know. He's the one got me started in MC and extempo. But I say and I must mention, he no longer taking part in 𝐾𝐲 competition. He said the 𝐾𝐲 it had to stop, cause he making more money in the roti shop. A quick view on Carnival. I can remember Carnival from before. We ain't have Carnival like that no more. Time of bands like 𝐾𝐲, Booty. Them is the bands that really used to excite we. We used to have man like me man Sikra and Alanti days too far. But right now, I must say well friends well. I want to thank God for Adrian and Tribal 12. Boom, boom, skeda bam boom, da bam boom bam boom. Hey, dai doi doi, da bam boom bam boom. Skala la 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 bam boom bam bam boom boom. Ba da da de bam bam boom bam boom. Da 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 de la la lo bam boom. Skala la 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 bam 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 boom. De da 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 da. So it's not any problem we come here to solve. But I want you to know the carnival, it evolved. And I want to say with it, I'm really impressed. Lucia Carnival is definitely one of the best. I'm telling you, it is so crucial. We have now the best minister of Bacchanal. And tonight I wish he would let us know by taking the mic, even one verse of extempo. So we have 10 minutes, we have about 6 minutes remaining to prove that we can really do extempo. We're gonna slow it down and take 2 topics that you would like us to compose about, because this is what extempo is all about. It's the art of composing on the spur of the moment. So we will take 2 topics. Anybody wants to give us the first topic? Elections. Elections, yeah, we're nice. And second topic? Oh, you want both of us to sing on elections, or? Which one? Kakal? We can do that. We can do anything. Extempo there. Which one you want? You will take Kakal? I'm not surprised. There we go. Yeah, man. Well, friends, I wasn't surprised at all when I heard the reaction from the man Kakal. He want to say, and what he say to you,
is that patrons do have a right to boo. But what Kakal did not realize, he himself should never be too surprised when you come on a stage and you sing for we. And every verse that you sing, man, is folk Corey.
Give it up for the man, Papa Veda. Ba-da-ba, lim, lam, bam, boom, bam, boom.
Boy, dang, boom,
Be-da-da, lim, lam, bam, boom, bam, boom. Le-la-la-la, lim, la-la, boom, bam, boom. Ba-da-ba, la, bam, boom, bam, boom. Ba-da-ba, lim, bam, bam, boom, bam, boom. Ba-da-da-da-dam, dam, bam, 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 bam. Le-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la. Everybody patiently waiting, cause everybody know election coming. And I'm telling you, yes, take it from me. Is I always a man? Yes, he's so happy. Papa, I'm telling you, you gone on the moon, but election coming, you conk out too soon. Because the minister, hear what I hear today, they say this year 𝐿𝐿𝐼𝐴𝐺 getting better pay. La bam bam la la la. We have time for 2 more topics. We have 2 minutes or 1 topic and we'll each sing on it. 1 final topic. We have a topic over here. Which one? The bum bum wall. Oh God, boy, Veda could do about 12 verses on that. Then let me tell you. Bum bum wall.
Well, I ain't go doubt my friend is I Hall when he say I could sing 12 verses about the Bam Bam Wall. Friends, the Bam Bam Wall really appeal to me. That is what I just look for and look for it clearly. Cause on Carnival Day, I just take a walk by the country and stand right there on the block. When the girls pass weather, they short or they tall. I know they'll make up for it on the Bam Bam Wall.
Well, I'm telling you, Veda, my friend, you getting all that business, you have to end the way that you admitting that you doing so. It's in Papa what they say you is a real man. Cause I'm telling you something, take it from me, how that bum bum wall making you so happy. So I'm telling you, listen to Isai Hall. I think this year they should give you to pay the bum bum. Yeah, man, give it up, ex-tempo people, that's what it's all about.
Enjoy tonight.
Looking forward to the rest of the night.
It's all about
Thank you so much.
Carnival, Bacchanal, respect.
Honorable Dr. Edna Manley College, Minister for Tourism, Investment, Creative Industries, Culture, and Information. Honorable Dr. Pauline Antoine Prosper, Parliamentary Secretary. Mrs. Amy Quantrill, Resident British High Commissioner. Mr. Calvin Lee, Deputy Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Tourism. Mr. Mara Gibson, Chairperson of the Carnival Planning and Management Committee. Representatives of various government ministries, board members and directors of the Carnival Planning and Management Committee, and partner agencies, including Events Saint Lucia, the Cultural Development Foundation, and the Saint Lucia Tourism Authority. Representatives of sponsor agencies, representatives of the Calypso Fraternity, Carnival Bands Association, members of the media, and lovers of Lucian Carnival. Good evening. Welcome to l'Histoire Carnival, the story of the history and evolution of Lucian Carnival. We've just been treated to a classic taste of Calypso wit and wisdom by legends in the art form, Veda and Isai Hall, with T.C. Brown on guitar. A round of applause, please. At the heart of Lucian Carnival 2025 are 4 guiding pillars that shape every aspect of this year's celebration. These pillars are calls to action for every St. Lucian to protect, uplift, and own this festival. The pillars include inclusivity, a place for every St. Lucian and visitor to the island in Lucian Carnival, no matter their age, background, ability, interests, or budget. Sustainability, caring for the environment in which we operate, and carrying forward the culture and legacy of Lucian Carnival through youth involvement. responsible enjoyment, from safe partying to responsible drinking, where we're encouraging a celebration where everyone looks out for the other. And lastly, cultural preservation. By honoring and teaching our traditions, we hold on to what makes us distinctly St. Lucian. My name is 𝐂𝐚𝐧 𝐂𝐚𝐫𝐲. I'm the Public Relations Officer for the Carnival Planning and Management Committee and your host for this evening. Tonight, we dive into the heartbeat of St. Lucian culture, tracing the journey of Carnival from its roots to its vibrant present. L'Histoire Carnival will be broken down into two parts, the lecture and a panel discussion. This event is where our four pillars converge through storytelling, education, and cultural memory. It is both a mirror and a map, reflecting who we are and guiding our carnival. We now begin the powerful journey through conversation. Our panel discussion includes three stalwarts in Lucian Carnival. Our first panelist is Mr. Ember Charles, a seasoned cultural advocate, researcher, and writer with a deep-rooted passion for Lucian Carnival. He currently serves as the chairman of the board of directors of the Folk Research Center, where he continues to lead efforts in preserving and promoting our island's rich cultural traditions. Mr. Charles has also collaborated extensively with key cultural institutions, including the Cultural Development Foundation, contributing his expertise to numerous national initiatives. Mr. Charles? Our second panelist is Ms. Fiona Compton, a distinguished cultural curator, visual artist, filmmaker, and passionate advocate for Caribbean heritage. Based in the she serves as an official ambassador for Notting Hill Carnival, where she works to bridge Caribbean traditions with the diaspora experience. Fiona is also the founder of Know Your Caribbean, the largest and most engaged digital platform dedicated to Caribbean history and culture. Through storytelling, educational content, and creative expression, she has ignited global conversations about identity, resistance, and celebration in the Caribbean space. As a St. Lucian deeply rooted in culture, she brings both local insight and international perspective to our discussion this evening. Welcome, Fiona. Our third panelist is Dr. Damian Greaves, a multifaceted cultural figure whose contributions to Lucian Carnival span governance, artistry, and advocacy. Dr. Greaves is a former Minister of Culture, where he played a pivotal role in shaping cultural policy and supporting the development of St. Lucia's creative industries. Mr. Greaves is also a seasoned writer, composer, and calypsonian. His passion for Carnival is personal and lived. Welcome, Dr. Greaves. Lastly, our moderator for this evening is Mr. Teddy Francis, a well-known cultural administrator and the first executive director of the Cultural Development Foundation and a long-serving director of Carnival. He's a respected organizer, researcher, and broadcaster on Carnival. He's worked extensively in the region, collaborating with state and private agencies, including research, commentary, and event production. He now serves as a consultant locally and regionally. A foremost authority on Lucian Carnival, he brings both deep knowledge and passion to tonight's discussion. Welcome, Mr. Francis.
Good evening, everyone. Normally the protocol starts with ministers and officials of government. In this sense tonight, the real VIPs are some of the icons we see here tonight. And so I take the liberty to acknowledge some of them. And in order, I really want to pay special attention, mention, and respect to one of the greatest makers of mass we have ever seen on St. Lucia, Mr. Antonius Sikra Gibson. This is no token acknowledgement. Sikra is far and away the greatest band leader the epic portrayals of the bombing of Amtata, Ravin Poisson disaster, Papillon in Splendor, which was decades ahead of his time, and the rest of the mass. 𝐶KRA is also a drummer, lights technician, designer of his costume builder, and every aspect of the mass. 𝐶KRA, Gibson, we appreciate you and indeed respect your contribution. And this, maybe inadvertently, the CPMC have created a fantastic communion of the Carnival milieu. Persons who have really excelled. We're seeing the names there. Very poignant, almost touching, to see Adrian Auger, Rowan Sion, The Invader, Isai Hall, T.C. Brown, and lots of others who I'm perhaps not seeing from the front of the room. I did mention Mr. Sion. I'm seeing two other writers just joining us now. We really have greatness in our midst, and maybe that wasn't the main purpose, but it created a very rare coming together of the great Carnival players. We want to applaud them for that, however inadvertent. And so the basis, the idea here is to go through the contours of the evolution of St. Lucia Carnival, the history not being the details, who won which title in what year, not chronicling the carnival, but tracing the shape and the evolution, what we have come to here today. And the panel is well placed. We'd start by asking Vibating, a man who was really at a pivotal point in the growth of carnival, really important, the change of date. Remember the debate, the wars, the fights over the change of date. Carnival almost torn apart, really emotional. A total boycott of Carnival in 1996 by those who thought we must change it now. And some of the conservatives, who I won't name tonight, who insisted on remaining in pre-Lenten, in the pre-Lenten period. But in the end, Damian Greaves happened to be the minister who piloted that change in 1999. And I don't think there's much debate as to the growth in numbers and participation. The purists will have their say as to whether the meaning has been lost or retained. Damian Greaves, welcome, sir. Tell us of the thinking at the time. You were a young minister, brought in on a wave of popularity. The thinking of the cabinet and indeed yourself on that change of date.
Well, first of all, I have to acknowledge the role of band leaders and some of the calypsonians and so on, some of the iconic characters at that time who participated in the 1996 scenario. We had consultations across the country. That's how we approached it. We had the consultations across the country. And of course, beyond that, there were consultations with other Caribbean states and so on within the OECS, because the thinking at that time is that Carnival had to be married to the touristic kind of situation, because we thought that it could help us with tourism. It could help us in terms of the economic growth that we were looking at, and that we could not compete against Trinidad with the pre-Lenten carnival. And therefore, we had those consultations. We went up and down the country, and I want to especially point out JJ. I think JJ is in the house. Where's JJ? JJ is there, right? People like JJ and others. Vaughn, is Vaughn there? Vaughn should be there, Vaughn Charles. Yes, these were the soldiers who partnered with me, and we went and we did what we had to do despite the, all of the strikes, well, not the strikes, all of the demonstrations that we experienced and all of the talk, both on radio and otherwise. And what happened too is that we saw, Teddy, the probability of smaller carnivals being able to come together in terms of the calendar of activities. So what did we see? We saw St. Lucia in July. We saw Barbados in August. So we saw St. Vincent, well, not St. Vincent and the Grenadines, I think Grenada, right. So we saw that we could create a package of island hopping where patrons would come to the carnival and come to these several countries, and it would be a total package. And we had discussions with other ministers. I had discussions with other ministers of culture in the sub-region, and that was the plan going forward. So the date was important for us because, one, we could not compete with Trinidad and Tobago in terms of having people to come across and enjoy what we had to experience. And the Cabinet of Ministers, when we presented the paper to them, giving the rationale for the change of the date, it was accepted willingly. And so today we are seeing, when we look back on hindsight, that it was indeed a good decision at the time, such that everybody is enjoying it, and all what needs to happen is currently taking place.
Maybe a quick assessment from your view, perspective of how it has worked. The initial objectives, have they been met? Are you happy?
Yes, absolutely. I'm happy with how it has grown. I've been following it while overseas, and now I'll be seeing it in action here. And I think it has grown tremendously, and we have seen the growth in terms of the changes, not only in the style of costumes and so on. We have seen the changes in terms of the growth of Calypso, the Soca Monarch and all of those. You remember we had the OECS Soca Monarch at one time. I don't know what has happened to that now, but that was the start of the whole Soca Monarch business. And I remember we invited countries across to come here. Panorama we have seen, because we paid specific attention to Panorama as well, and all of the costume bands and so on. So basically what we are seeing, what I'm seeing is a growth, a change, and the evolution of Carnival is an important story to tell, and I hope that sometime it will be documented so that others coming afterwards could understand, one, the struggles, two, the growth, three, the joys of seeing where we have come to in terms of the evolutionary process of our St. Lucian Carnival.
Indeed. We'll be getting back to you in your capacity as sociologist and the effect on society of Carnival, as it were, and indeed, finally, as a Calypsonian. Right. You having been a Calypsonian, who got, what you got one night, 12 encores, Minister Bacchanal?
For Minister of Bacchanal, yes.
You remember the lines? Do you remember some lines? Hardly. But Charles is in several capacities. He's an inveterate mass man, preferring the traditional mass. He's also the head for a number of years of the FRC. You're charged with preserving culture, heritage, tradition. Where are you at, but your own assessment, using Carnival as perhaps a metaphor for wider conservation? How pleased are you with the approach to Carnival? How much have we retained traditions? And how much have we kept the balance between that and modernizing the festival?
I think with all the new technologies we have these days, it is possible now to preserve Carnival a lot, because everybody has a phone. You have many more production houses around doing a lot of documentation. But I think we have to bear in mind that in the past, we have lost quite a bit, because people were not serious about documenting. The institutions were not documenting, except somebody like the Folk Research Center. I mean, we could recall, Lionel Ellis, for instance, as an independent person doing his videos of Carnival. And these are the things we have right now. Even in the early days of the CDF and NCDC, every year they produce a booklet or some document on Carnival. You were responsible, Teddy, for that. Boots, I think Boots is around somewhere.
Yes.
Was responsible. So you had that element of information that could capture what was happening during the course of the year and also make it available for people doing research down the road about Carnival. Unless you do that in a very systemic way, you probably can't speak about how you can assess the growth of Carnival. But what we have seen so far, there are certain eras in the evolution of Carnival. Of course, we know post-war, the likes of Miss Booty, the likes of Farween, the likes of Tony Ishmael, and then Secra came. I was a member of Secra's Carnival Band. I remember this Papillon Revolution, and Popey and I, who were a couple of the really rebellious young men who didn't want to stay in our section at the time, but you grow out of that eventually. Out of Secra, you got bands emerging like the New Dimensions, Mass Creation with Cephas Branford. You also had bands like the Originals. Then came Mass Action. And there was an era of innovation where you phased across to bands like Royalites at Extreme, Royalites was the Royalites Extreme. You had Spectrum. And again, another band leader we have to remember was Marquis. I'm trying to remember his first name. Marquis Esparza. Victor Marquis was one of these band leaders. There were some of the lesser known ones, the quiet ones like In Sommeil. I think I saw Tony around walked into. I mean, it's amusing that because these people are very dedicated to the craft. We may think that they're doing nonsense on the road, but they're serious about their band. And that's the difference between that era and now. Carnival bands were communities. They were friends coming together. Whatever resources you had, you put a band together. People used to share material. You're missing some sequins, you will go across, you borrow this from another band, somebody is missing glue. And in that era, the mass grew together as a community. But then you realize that it was becoming a bit commercial because there was more demand for spaces in bands. Bands were getting bigger. So you find in the era of the innovation, like the introduction of bands like 𝐿𝐴𝐶, which spawned bands like Red Unlimited, which became Red International.
And Just for Fun.
And Just for Fun.
Just for fun.
And then you had the separation of what it was deemed the traditional mass and the party mass. Minister Ernest Hilaire, in his former iteration as a truck driver for Red International. He always claims to be a mass man, but he just used to be driving his van. Where tired revelers would put their costumes in the back and he should be checking on see who's jumping in the band or not. That's just a joke on him. But there was a period of innovation because 𝐻𝑆, for instance, I was part of the management team of 𝐻𝑆. You brought in a number of new things into mass. You brought in, for instance, when we realized the bands were growing, this is the first band that brought in 2 music trucks. Yeah, it was really the master truck and the slave truck. Because at that time, people wanted to be close, always want to be close to the music in the mass. As bands grow, you need more services. So you had new services on the road as well. You also introduced, in that area of innovation, what was called premium sections in band, which to me, it has gone out of control now. It becomes a VIP section, the VVVIP section, and the VVVIP section. Where Carnival is supposed to equalize people, it's supposed to bring you together. When you begin to have these sorts of artificial divisions in the mass, and it's out of control, then it creates a problem. But we reached the stage now where it has grown to the extent that it has surpassed the infrastructure in our country, and I think that's something that we have to do about it.
Yeah. A lot more from you, Mbut, as a mass player yourself, a reveler. You along with JJ, that image is really iconic. You and JJ playing your mud mass, your paint and powder, J'ouvert and through. Adrian gives you a license to play your own mass. Not so, Adrian? The 2 of them have their own license within your band Rituals and in the Tribe of 12. Fiona Compton, welcome.
Thank you.
Which band you jumped with in Saint Lucia before you migrated?
Lucian Spirits.
Okay.
Yes.
Respect to Joe
Yes,
Ningson.
yes, all the way.
Fiona, of course, had a fantastic showing of a film last night over at the cinema with a large gathering, and we want to commend her for that. As context, and we mustn't understate it, that Fiona is doing fantastic work. In fact, her site, her page, is recognized as the greatest site and conduit in the world for Caribbean heritage and things Caribbean as far as culture. She does, in fact, have up to a record, I think, of 16 million people interact in 1 month, have interacted with 16 million people around the world.
Yeah.
I saw a report that Naomi Campbell is there, Trevor Noah is on there.
Yeah.
So it's really great achievement. Tell us, some of your work speaks of women in mass, the so-called notorious nakedness, skimpiness. You have your own interpretation to your work and research on that and what it means in the mass. Tell us your take on women in the mass.
Well, I think one of my favorite things in researching Carnival, I think because I spent so many years away, I started having a disconnect with my own culture. I became obsessed with it. And I think that's how the platform started, being separated from my own heritage. And then being in Notting Hill Carnival and having the frustrations of seeing it, as you said, it feels like a plastic carnival.
Plastic carnival.
It has its frustrations, and I started with designing T-shirts and getting involved in making masks, and then I started to ask questions about it, and then so I fell down this rabbit hole of history, and then looking into the history of Carnival, and because they're saying, jab means this, and that's why we put the oil and whatever, and then the history of the word Jamet came out. I'm like, what Jamet is talking about, a loose woman, or I call everybody Jamet all the time. And then when I found out that the history of the word comes from the French word diameter, which diamet, right? And then it became creolized to Jamet. And the history of it started in Trinidad, where they were speaking about this Jamet mass, these rebellious people, these enslaved people or formerly enslaved people would take to the streets. So this concept of we are only mimicking European Carnival is not true. That yes, we include satire and parody, but there's also a rebellious element to it, and the Jamet mass is part of that. When you look especially about women's bodies, Caribbean women's bodies, historically have been violated, controlled, that they had no autonomy over their own bodies. The 𝐺𝐻𝐻 Mass encompassed that freedom, where they took to the streets and they had the power and energy and control over their own bodies. And so they said they're behaving below the diameter of colonial respectability. So this is basically they're behaving below the diameter of the white man's vision of how we're supposed to behave as Caribbean people. So when I think about the 𝐺𝐻𝐻, and of course we can see in the same way how the 𝐻𝐻 became a negative concept, how the 𝐻𝐻 were the freedom fighters who liberated themselves from the plantation and refused to work for massa, but then we use 𝐻𝐻 as an insult, is the same way that how the 𝐺𝐻𝐻 became vilified. So I think it's really powerful for us to kind of rethink or have a bit more critical thinking about how we use the term 𝐺𝐻𝐻 and looking at the role of Caribbean women's bodies in Saint Lucian Carnival. And I know that the Bum Bum Wall has us very conflicted, but I think we also have to have a revisionist approach into how we view the Bum Bum Wall in our history of resistance and freedom of women's expression in Carnival.
Have you been on the wall, Bum Bum Wall?
Not yet. Not yet, because last year I was doing Old Mass and I was too busy sending words for people, so I did not. So, yes.
But have you observed it at all? Have you been
yes, I mean, the thing is,
when
I saw it for the first time, I realized it is spectacular. Me as a very straight woman, and I love man, it's true. But it's like, you do get transfixed. It is beautiful. It is a spectacle. It is. But I think what it is that I would love to see the Bum Bum Wall and some stilt walkers and some pan players and some live drummers and somebody singing a whip or blowing a conch shell. I want to see all the different layers. I was speaking to Vale from Just for Fun the other day, and he made like a great analogy, and he said, Carnival is like a sandwich. You need to have all the different ingredients to make a sandwich taste good. If you just have meat, and meat, it's dry, or bread, and bread, or cheese, you need to have all the different layers. So I think there's, I'm really looking forward to Dr. Octave's lecture where talking about the space for all. And I don't think that we should be vilifying. I know we're concerned about hypersexuality in our Carnival and how social media fixates on only that part of Carnival, but I think we should have all. So I'm not going to say, oh, this is just women just looking for attention and validation. I'm looking at it, and Dr. Octave and I had a great conversation on the plane the other day about that history of the 𝐺𝐻𝐻 Mass, the Bum Bum Wall, the relationships with our bodies, and then also that we should have all and not just one thing.
Yeah. We get back to you on the aspect of ancestry and the meaning in the Mass linking back to our African origin. I want your take before we end on that. We can't go for too long. I'm being hinted because we do have the lecture to come from Dr. Octave. Damian Greaves, you also a trained sociologist. Your view on Carnival, St. Lucian Caribbean carnivals, many dismiss it as wanton bacchanalia, as looseness and lewdness on the road. Your own take about Carnival now in its present state and society.
Carnival, the great equalizer, breaking down the barriers of the stubborn hierarchical arrangements in the society. One has to look at that. The fact that we had people in certain sections of the society who were seen in certain ways jumping up on the streets, and I remember how people used to speak about ladies working in the bank, how they would get onto the streets, and next day you see a transformed individual. So you had that kind of situation going on. Of course, you have the J'ouvert, where the characters displayed certain things that were societal, expressing themselves almost like Calypsonians in terms of what was happening in the society and how they analyzed what was happening in the society for the benefit of others and for the entertainment of others. But as Carnival has evolved, there are questions being asked. There are questions, for example, of Carnival versus what we see now in cinematography. Carnival versus what we see in terms of social media, what comes out on social media. Carnival in terms of the classic, what you call it again, television, what you call it again, the cable thing. Has Carnival been shaped by the outside forces of what is happening via social media? via the corporate media even, via cinematography and so on? Has it been shaped by that? Has it been shaped by the technology? Is it bowing to technology? Is it walking with the technology? Is it incorporating the technology to make a greater product? These are questions that we have to look at in much the same way that we speak about AI. Is AI man against machine or man with machine trying to produce better as we so-called, quote-unquote, progress and evolve in terms of what we can produce in all kinds of ways? So those are questions that we have to continue to answer. If you look at it from the Calypso point of view, again, we see, I mean, it's so great to see all of the fusion, the experimentation by people like 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿 and Faith Calix in his writing and Happy and all of these other guys there, and the music in terms of the fusion of even the Afrobeat now, and the fusion of other kinds of rhythms that have come to the fore as we move to what you call the Soca Monarch competition or Soca songs, and we talk about the groovy, which is an interesting thing that we see happening and continuing to evolve. So I think there's great scope. If we look behind on hindsight, we can see how the development has taken place, and I believe there's a lot more to come. But there must be a conscious and deliberate effort to harness that and to encourage it and help it develop in some form, from the schools and beyond.
But Charles,
yes.
You as a reveler, your own feeling now, you've transcended a few eras from way back. Now you're still very much active in playing mass. Your own feeling as to the meaning of the mass, the purpose of the mass, what we're achieving beyond just revelry.
I mean, certainly it's an opportunity for creative expression, but what I think is happening now, we begin to sort of disintegrate the mass too much. You have elements of mass that were so central to people. J'ouvert was so central to people. Now J'ouvert is an enterprise. If you don't pay for J'ouvert, you can't enjoy J'ouvert. You must join a band now. I mean, we grew up knowing about J'ouvert. You go on the streets. People who could not afford to be in a band went to J'ouvert. And thereafter, they go into the side of the streets and they watch the spectacle. But J'ouvert now is so organized. The Old Mass, for instance, Old Mass has been struggling. I mean, there are several attempts to have some workshops to help people interpret themes and so forth. So the focus now is really on the party on the road for the 2 days, which is fundamentally central to Carnival. I mean, that is the 2 days of freeing up, of expression, of, as we say, equalization and so forth. But then you have to be very careful. You don't segregate it too much, that you have the sort of bastard children of the Carnival being neglected, and then you prop up solo elements of Carnival which get more resources than others, and as a result, band members will begin to complain because, you know, the prize money is probably not sufficient to meet their costs.
Band leaders, you mean? You mean band leaders?
Band leaders, sorry. Band leaders are complaining. Then even when you look at the music section of the mass, the 𝐾𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐺 vis-a-vis the Soca and Power Soca Monarch artists and so forth, these separations, I think we have to be mindful that we don't allow them to get too wide, because it will create too much divisions in the mass and people will drop out. Now, in the recent times, we have had the new arrangements where you have the national events and then you have what the minister calls the international events, you call it, or the FETs, the private events. And we're in a free enterprise. Who says the private events will not just dominate mass and then the national mass becomes a fringe in the future if you're not very careful? So you have to be very, very careful the type of interventions we have in the mass, that we monitor these interventions on a regular basis to keep them in check, to see if they're going wrong, we bring it back. It's the same thing. I mean, when we shifted the dates, there was a lot of controversy about the shift, but we shifted the whole product. We didn't disintegrate the product. We just shifted it from one date to another. I mean, there were several experiments with dates, whether it was around Whitsuntide and who said what and so forth. But we kept the product together. Now we're experimenting with disintegrating the product. And I think we have to take stock at some point in time to see where we are and whether it is working. Yeah. And by the way, the Bam Bam Wall started with men, you know, and it wasn't Bam Bam. It started with men. Men used to jump, and actually it started because there are some bands, when you had, the guys came on, I mean, they had so much energy. They used to just run around, get on the red, excess energy, red, all of them. It used to be men. And suddenly, I don't know if the Jamettes took over.
Fiona,
Yeah.
I won't ask your response.
It was Rough Rats before.
Yeah, because it did start with Red Hill. It used to be
The Red Hill,
mountain,
yeah.
the hill, and it became this thing.
But with Red Unlimited owning that. Yeah.
Earlier. Red Hill was earlier, you know.
The Red Hill.
The wall. Exactly.
Okay, you see Carnival, the debate has started already, you know?
Red Hill was different.
Was Red Hill before Bam Bam, before the wall?
Yes, by the roundabout.
Red Hill was somewhere else.
I hope the cameras are capturing that debate there already. Who started first, the Red Hill or the Bam Bam wall?
The
Red Hill was first, all right.
Yes.
The hill was first, yeah.
Nice
Yes.
to see Crystal
Excess
and
was on the
Stacey
wall.
claiming the red roots.
Yeah.
Right.
It did.
Final comment from you before we move towards the lecture by Dr. Octave. Many would say that they've heard you about ancestry and ritual in Carnival. You say it's foolishness, you're talking, it's just people having fun and bacchanal. There's no link to our ancestry or any ritual anymore in the Carnival. Talk to them.
Well, I think when you understand the history of how it started, like again, to reiterate, it's not just us mimicking Europeans. It was us using that opportunity of when they were engaged in the masquerade to create our own, to have our own creative expressions, right? So it's not just us mimicking Europe. I don't see that at all. And I think even if maybe we're not aware of even if you don't need to read a book to say, oh, in 1854, this and this African tribe, which was Igbo, did that. No, you feel it, though. You feel the spirit anyway, whether you know it or not. The fact that when you, J'ouvert morning, you heard a drum, that boom, that you, even though you're tired, the tiredness goes, right? There's something about it, even the ritual of people, your friend helping you fix your costume on you. All that is ritual in the morning, getting up, having that breakfast to line your belly. All of these things are ritual. And whether we are aware of it or not, and I always like to think about the moment, yes, we think about all the people and our friends and getting good and getting drunk, but there's a moment when you're on the road when it's just you. And you close your eyes and it's just you. And it's a very introspective, spiritual feeling. And whether you're in VVIP or if you by the side of the road and you try and storm the ban or whatever, it is a very spiritual moment. And I think that's something that all of us can relate to. And I think that's why all of us are here today. So yes, I can put on my historian hat and talk to you about all of those things, which I do lectures, by the way. But, and I will say that that is my most requested topic, especially in the UK. They want to know the history, so I'm asked the most to come and teach the history of Carnival. But I don't think tonight is for that. It's just remembering the spirit of it, because all of us feel it, and that's why we're here. And we're committed to spend so much time, weeks, months, years to it. And so many people end up being broke, and next year they're still there doing it again. Yep. Because the spirit brings us back.
Interesting. Thank you. My producer, Chelsea, I think in the interest of time, we're pushing ahead towards the lecture. Are we? We wanted to have a few comments quickly from the audience. Some persons really eager to have, but we don't want to go on too long to affect the time. There will be questions and comments at the end of the lecture, after Dr. Octave's lecture. Maybe some, Chelsea, indications, some quick ones. Very quick, 1 minute maximum each person, 1 minute.
Rohan has a question.
1 minute each person.
Rohan.
We're going, I think Chelsea wants to get the minister's take quickly on his own vision. Response maybe to Ember Charles. Invader is still with us, is I? Invader is still there. And Paba, I see you soaking it in as a priest. Quickly. So 1 minute each person, please. 1 minute each person. Rohan, Sion.
Yeah, I think
Could they stand? Yeah.
Sure. The occasion, I think, is ideal for us to deal with a very pressing issue that I suspect many people have in mind here now. It's the separation that we heard reference to a minute ago of the international events, quote unquote, and our local traditional events. That 1 week that has been set aside. The minister's here. I just want to suggest that perhaps he can, at some point, make a clear policy statement so people understand exactly what the rationale is. Because I think that there's some wisdom in wanting to guarantee the presence of the international persons here for Carnival. But we also must bear in mind that Carnival is not about them, it's about us. And we have to get a clear statement as to what the philosophy is concerning the dates. For instance, Calypso Finals is being brought forward relative to Carnival itself, the traditional time of the Saturday and the Sunday, these powerful days that lead right into the Mass. That's important for us. But let's understand what the philosophy is behind it, so we can at least live with it comfortably. That's all.
Okay, Minister. Yeah.
I have to give the minister give you a whole day.
Well, time because Chelsea had intended for Minister to speak generally on his vision, and so, Minister, a quick comment before you continue. The mic for Minister Hilaire to.
Thank you very much.
With perspective.
I mean, Mr. Sion and I have argued and debated about this for many hours. So I don't know why he's putting me on the spot in this one. I think the policy is very clear, very, very clear. And let me just give you a little background. When we, post-COVID, we brought back, remember we were talking about mass and whatnot. The following year, we had Calypso Finals. There were barely 500 people there, barely 500. Panorama only had pan players at Panorama. King and Queen of the bands barely had anybody. And I said to them, how can it survive? How can it be sustainable if no one is coming to it? If no one is coming to a Calypso Finals? Gone are the days. We used to go to, well, you know the history of it, the park and how jam-packed it would be in mud with your water boots, but you're there for Calypso Finals. If Saint Lucian, this generation that is coming, is not going to Calypso Finals, how will it survive? And what if we create the conditions where it does not have to compete with the more favored private events and private fetes? And I said to them, I use my own example. I have a young daughter who's in Carnival. I have, persons like Kevin, I think I saw him somewhere around. They never went to a Calypso Finals because they had a fete somewhere just for fun or in one of the other things, because they preferred that kind of line, that kind of vibe, than going to a Calypso Finals. But if we decide to bring it a week earlier, with no competition for those events, they can now go to all the national events and still go to their favorite fetes when the international crowd comes into St. Lucia. So all of a sudden, you have a whole generation of young people that can go to Panorama, go to Calypso Finals, go to King and Queen of the Bands, and still have the week of private fetes to enjoy. And some people, the purists may not like it, but it is reality. So you have somebody like my daughter who can go to Calypso Finals and in the following week still enjoy a fete that she wants. And that's the reality. Now, we can decide as romantics. We want the national finals during the week. And a few of us will go. I will always prefer to go to a Calypso Finals. But what happened to an entire generation, the millennials and all the Gen Zs and all of them? Do we shut them off from that? Or do we create conditions where they can go and enjoy it? And we've seen in the last 2 years the numbers starting to increase again for finals, for Soca Monarch, for Panorama. This year we have to make a determined effort to really entice them, to really sexy up Calypso Finals, sexy up King and Queen of the Bands. So they will come to it, but they can have both options as against denying them that option. So we don't like it. It's not the ideal that we wanted. But it is a reality that we face in the modern society that we live in.
Explained by Minister Hilaire at the policy level. Stacey, you're nodding, agreeing. You agree?
I work at a hotel with the Gen Zs. Yeah, right. And I work at a hotel, and I know that what we try to do is to encourage the culture in the hotel. And even then, they're requesting their days off to jump on the road. And we're trying to say, okay, in order for you to bring it to the guests coming to us, you have to experience it. And that is what is helping me to take them out. Yeah, so I definitely agree with that. I know that we want to be purists, we want to hold on to it, but how do we share? How do we pass on if we're just setting our ways about, okay, this is how it is and this is what I want? And I'm looking at the heads nodding, Mr. Sion. I'm seeing the older person saying, yes, let us hold on to this, but I'm in a band with Fusion and I want to do both. I want to play both. I mean, Crystal is a band leader and then we're always having fights about the tradition which I want to hold on to and what she has to
deal with as the band leader. So this is a great way of merging and ensuring that we can get both.
Okay. In the interest of time, we will get the comments and so after the lecture, once Chelsea decides we have the window. In the interest of time, we wrap it up here. I want to thank the panelists. The debating is on, Chelsea. You created healthy debate in here. Maybe part of the empirical evidence and comparison. Maybe later, Madam Chair of Carnival, maybe you can share the comparison. I think because of a storm last year, the Calypso finals reverted to the original date, so maybe the figures, the comparison would be interesting. We'll probably ask the Chair of Carnival later on, because the figures would tell a story as to what happened when it reverted to its original date. Thank you, panelists. You've really been insightful, and we make way now for Dr. Octave with the feature lecture. Thank you, folks.
Thank you, Mr. Host. Thank you.
Thank you to our distinguished panelists, Dr. Damian Greaves, Mr. Ember Charles, Ms. Fiona Compton, and our moderator, Mr. Teddy Francis. Very insightful, very thought-provoking discussions. We know that some of you are bubbling with questions, and we will welcome these questions at the end of this evening's lecture. I now invite, but before I say this, I do want, Madam Chair, if you'll permit me, to say one thing, that we are listening. And one of the things that we're doing this year that we're extremely excited about is we've introduced an all-mass competition at the juniors level. So we will be sharing more details on that, but for those of you with young people under the age of 18 at home who are interested in telling the story of Lucian Carnival, there is a place for you at the junior levels. I now invite Mr. Miguel Joseph to serenade us.
You want to see.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you to Mr. Miguel Joseph. To those of you joining us online, we are very happy to have you for the inaugural l'Histoire Carnival. And for those of you in the lobby, please find your seats as we recommence the discussions this evening. As we wait, let me remind you that for updates on everything Lucian Carnival, visit our website at www.carnivalstlucia.com or follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or X rather, Instagram, and TikTok at Carnival St. Lucia. A reminder, again as we wait, a reminder that tomorrow is the final quarter-final show for Calypso. So if you haven't had a chance to take in any of the Calypso 10 shows, tomorrow is the last chance to do that, and it's at 8 p.m. at the National Cultural Center. I believe the tent is South Calypso tent and the Takeover tent. TOT and Soca Village, that was a test. I'm glad you guys are paying attention. TOT Soca Village live tomorrow for the final quarterfinal show, and then we move into the semi-final round of competition. This Saturday also is the National Carnival Queen motorcade. So if you're in the city of Castries or along the route to Rodney Bay, please line the streets to get a final opportunity to see our National Carnival Queen delegates before this year's competition. And in true pageant style, we will culminate at the JQ Rodney Bay Mall, where the young ladies will put on a show just for you. So that is on Saturday, our National Carnival Queen motorcade. So, we now move from dialogue to deep reflection as we prepare to welcome the next segment for this evening.
What I would like to see is every Saint Lucian take part in Lucian Carnival.
Today people haven't got a deep appreciation for Carnival. They don't really understand what it is all about. It is an expression of our cultural ability.
Calypsos, pansides, old mass, these contribute significantly to the Lucian Carnival product. I want the story to be one that resonates with every Saint Lucian. I want each of us to know that it is our story and that we have to be proud of it.
Feel the vibes, embody the spirit. Lucian Carnival, nothing sweeter than...
Wherever you get your content. So I encourage you again to follow us on @Carnival St. Lucia. But just a fun fact before we move into the next session. During our break, during the Pan session, you would have seen some very old footage being showed on the screen. That footage was captured by our former Prime Minister, John Compton. And Fiona would have shown that last evening at her movie premiere, and she was happy to share the content with us so that you could enjoy. So thank you again to Fiona, and of course to our former Prime Minister. So it is my pleasure to introduce to you the keynote lecturer for the inaugural l'Histoire Carnival, that is Dr. Anthea Octave. Dr. Octave is a cultural studies scholar and academic leader with 20 years of experience in higher education and cultural research. She currently serves as the Director of Studies at the School of Arts, Management, and Humanities at Edna Manley College of the Visual and Performing Arts in Jamaica, where she provides academic leadership and strategic direction for the institution's arts management and humanities programs. Dr. Octave earned her PhD in Cultural Studies from the University of the West Indies in Trinidad and Tobago with high commendation. Her dissertation, Negotiating Cultural Survival, Tradition and Change in Traditional Enactments of St. Lucia, provides an in-depth examination of how our cultural practices navigate cultural relevance, maintaining meaning while connecting in contemporary spaces. She also holds a Bachelor of Arts in Theatre Arts and Carnival Studies from the UE of Trinidad and Tobago, reflecting her deep academic foundation in Caribbean festival arts. Dr. Octave's research contributions include The Flower, Festivals and Meaningful Continuity, published in The Road to Mount Pleasant, Selected Essays on St. Lucia Culture in 2017. She also delivered the keynote address, Tafeta Turkiteta, Negotiating a Balance Between Tradition and Change at the St. Lucia Studies Conference in 2018. Dr. Octave also has extensive experience in arts administration and cultural project management. Her practical experience in arts management and cultural programming informs her academic work and provides real-world insights into the challenges and opportunities facing Caribbean cultural expressions. Through her work, she continues to champion the importance of cultural preservation while acknowledging the dynamic nature of living traditions in contemporary Caribbean society. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Dr. Anthea Octave. Did I mention that she's a St. Lucian?
Can I just say for a minute, I didn't actually recognize myself? In the true fashion of what we called it, the equalizing space that is Carnival, we're going to go with all protocols observed. Good night to our very, very important people here. I'm glad to be with you this evening to offer my thoughts, and I hope there's something in there for everybody in the room. Here goes. So the topic is, get in your section, Lucian Carnival and the openness of cultural space. I am a reveler, a masquerader, a thespian, and an academic. Play is central to who I am, whether in a play or playing mass. From memories as spectator of carnival bands such as Secra, Royal Lights, Lucian Spirits, New Dimensions, to my grown folk choice to become a reveler, first with Excess Energy and then with Just for Fun, and most recently with Tribe of 12, Carnival called to the bacchanalists in the Catholic girl who should have had brought up C. Vaval offered freedom to claim space, a promise of shared euphoria. As Bachelor sang, a magical festival, the formula, the remedy for everybody. Plenty therapy underneath the bacchanal. So pursuing the Carnival Studies degree offered a space where my embodied experiences as a masquerader could meet critical inquiry. The Academy demanded I look anew at things I'd simply accepted as culture, to see how they shape our understanding of the world, how we exercise agency, and how we make statements, question, celebrate, and claim space. To understand that for some, the act of performing culture is a moment to step into visibility, where invisibility has too often been the norm. A moment to weave community bonds and unity that are often tested by the pressures of everyday life. While the title of this presentation may be reminiscent of Papa Veda's Stay in Your Section, I use it here as spatial metaphor, meant to evoke imagery of carnival sections with its suggestions of fluid boundaries. See it with me. You're on the road, music blasting, body gyrating, sweat pouring in your section. In this costume, with these friends, you're having a time. But you spot your friend in another section. You slip between the boundaries and chip away with that crew, enjoying that rhythm, feeling how this new energy holds you differently. Perhaps you return to your section willingly, or perhaps you only return when required by the rules of judging or by security. Sections identify us as belonging somewhere, with an openness that allows movement, regrouping, reconfiguration, as informed by different needs, purposes, and desires. This metaphor of space allows us to understand Carnival as creating and existing in a cultural landscape characterized by participation of different players who each locate themselves meaningfully. And the most crucial insight is that Carnival's significance comes via participation. Like Carnival bands gathering in anticipation at Marcy, I invite you to come on the road with me. But let's get clear on the route, because you know it always have plenty opinions on the route. But I offer these 3 coordinates. Coordinate number 1, Carnival is fundamentally a festival. This may seem obvious, but it bears stating, because how we define festival sets the tone for how we interpret Carnival's function and form. Allow me to take a short break. Fallacy defines festivals, as recurrent social occasions involving entire communities, however defined, however characterized. And Getz describes them as public themed celebrations that occur regularly. Both these definitions emphasize rhythm, ritual, and communal participation. Coordinate number 2, Carnival is a national event. It therefore becomes policy, not just play. This institutional framing provides visibility and funding, but subjects it to competing agendas. Coordinate number 3, Carnival operates within festival tourism and straddles cultural heritage and cultural product. We're witnessing not simply commercialization, but strategic repositioning to meet multiple objectives: cultural vitality, economic gain, global visibility. While these coordinates aren't the only routes through Carnival, they plot the course for how we'll navigate its meanings in this moment. Contemporary carnivals are layered terrains, shaped by history, politics, performance, and play. On the road, you can feel its heartbeat, a living mosaic of rhythms, energies, and interactions that have the capacity to preserve cultural memory, generate economic activity, resist dominant narratives, and accommodate the tourist gaze. And long after the 2 days on the road, the choreography that is Carnival continues to move in our homes, through our culture, between our islands, and across the seas. You see, culture moves in all directions at once. It carries the sediment of the past, the urgencies of the present, and the dreams of the future. As all good stories do, let's begin en temps longtemps by anchoring the Carnival in its historical setting, where space was first claimed and identity performed in masquerading bodies. Saint Lucian narratives of origin speak of a temps carnaval, which began with the festivities of the French settlers who established communities near what is now Castries. This historical framing draws legitimacy from its resemblance to broader Caribbean lineage, which places the tradition's emergence in French-controlled territories where Roman Catholicism had already established deep institutional roots. The story goes thus. The colonial festivity began with masquerade balls and elite gatherings, exclusive formal affairs. Over time, however, Carnival was profoundly transformed by the cultural practices of the enslaved Africans and their descendants. Denied access to time and space within the dominant order, Afro-Caribbean communities asserted their presence. Following emancipation, they laid claim to the public day allowed for Carnival, filling them with rituals of resistance, memory, and reinvention. The resulting traditions exemplify what anthropologists called cultural syncretism, the blending of different cultural systems into hybrid forms that transcend their origins while retaining recognizable elements of each. In Saint Lucia and across the region, Carnival became a space where meaning was performed, bodies claimed visibility, and the past was both remembered and reimagined through rhythm, costume, and collective motion. Now, while this broader Caribbean context provides important framing, the earliest recorded celebration in St. Lucia is 1947 and is often framed as a spontaneous cultural emergence. You know the story. A small group of young people dressed in ragged clothes, creating rhythms from bottles, pieces of steel, parading through Castries on Shrove Monday night. The fact that the parade ended at the home of Derek and Roddy Walcott suggests that the celebration naturally gravitated towards spaces associated with artistic and intellectual activity, indicating the community's intuitive understanding of Carnival as cultural expression rather than mere entertainment. However, this identification of this moment, 1947, as the start of Saint Lucian Carnival, that's the point we can document, has never sat right with me from the time I first encountered it when I was researching it in 2004. Because it is well documented that carnivals are linked to masquerade energies. So what occurred in 1947 must have deeper ties in a specific Lucian masquerade psyche. The specific moment of that spontaneous emergence has room for deeper research. Undeniably, that moment of rupture and claiming space allowed the Lucians in that space and time to be in ways that only taking to the streets in community could express. But who were they and what were they responding to? It is not coincidental that this emergence is located in the aftermath of World War II. So what was going on in that moment in time? What was the pressure valve that demanded loosening or release for which people took to the streets? The research into this is important work to move our carnival narratives of existence beyond being relegated to the influence of the undeniably louder and more established counterpart to the south. Our Caribbean scholars tell us repeatedly that we must situate our understanding of our cultural practices within their specific historical and social context, and thereby truly begin to plumb its meanings to the society of its emergence, as well as make meaning of that which continues to resonate and find voice generations later. What we do know is that Carnival was declared a holiday, and Carnival gained structure that gave it legitimacy and cultural sustainability. That we know as fact. Communities of people celebrated as resonated in their souls. The tradition in places like Soufrière and Soisel ending with the ritual procession to Tewe Vava. Mais, comme toujours, ton fait tant et ton quitte tant. Il est quick, mamaila. What is an evening of l'histoire without a good storytelling refrain? Fast forward to 1990. The reality is that Carnival occupies space in a country heavily reliant on a tourist economy, with an impetus for income generation from festival culture. The relocation from a pre-Lenten to a July Carnival was not simply rescheduling, it was socio-economic maneuvering. This shifted the Carnival from the liturgical cycle to the tourism calendar, representing not just timing change, but priority redefinition. The move made economic sense, but this disrupted older logics. For some of us, the realignment chipped away at community and meaning-making and shifted resonance. For some of us, there was a gnawing fear that Carnival would become less about communal catharsis and more about market appeal. Change is threatening. Change also has the capacity to revitalize cultural practices. The relationship between Carnival timing and its essential nature has been debated in Caribbean scholarship, and the conclusions are nuanced. It is generally accepted that the pre-Lenten timing was deeply integrated within the Carnival's social functions, providing specific ritual structure, particularly around feasting before fasting, celebration before sacrifice. This created a particular rhythm and intensity that shaped how participants experienced carnivals. But scholars like Roald Gibbons suggest that Carnival's essential function lies deeper than the religious calendar. The spirit of Mass, its core function and meaning, transcends any incidental form it takes and calendar space it occupies. Carnivals operate as negotiated terrains, where significance emerges through active participation of diverse players who must continuously work out shared meanings. How individually and collectively Saint Lucians engage with the Vaval is the signifier of its socio-cultural relevance. In the contemporary manifestation of the Lucian Carnival, economic sustainability and cultural vitality intertwine in complex ways. When we hear concerns about commercialization, they often express deeper anxieties about whether Carnival can maintain its role as a space for collective expression while also functioning as economic driver. The question isn't whether Carnival elements should be income generating, but how do we ensure that economic vitality supports rather than restricts cultural participation? These debates are worth having. For example, identifying how economic pressures can disrupt cultural priorities. Such debates would allow us to look honestly at ourselves, as all cultural performance should do, and to debate the merits of Carnival as cultural heritage and what is worthy of preservation. There's a tension that begs the question, what purpose does Carnival serve as cultural practice and for whom? And what we're really asking is how do we ensure Carnival remains meaningful to all who carry it? In the music, in the mass, in the body, in the memory. The answer lies not in privileging one vision, but in maintaining space for multiple interpretations and expressions. Get in your section is a call that is both logistical and ideological. Sections are boundaries that denote belonging. Sections are also social and symbolic territories that require negotiation. Sections, whether mass bands, calypso tents, Spaniards, Dennery segment, soca competition, fetes, or any communal carnival space, they're not neutral territories. And in a terrain increasingly shaped by commercial logics, some sections expand while others are pushed to the periphery. Some claim space with ease, others fight for it. Carnival is capacious, yes, but that capacity is not always equally accessible. Cultural significance is articulated through participation. Mass camps, calypso tents, Spaniards serve as examples of this cultural logic. These are sites of cultural transmission. Knowledge and skill acquisition are gained and passed on and innovated through shared practice. Our culture has never been static. Cultural survivability depends on it. It is what we see Jason, Joseph, and team doing via the school's calypso and soca competitions. These children, these young revelers and masqueraders, aren't simply competing for a title. They are being inculcated into a community of practice that carries forward the traditions of lyrical storytelling and social commentary. And they are building upon it, and their contributions will become part of Carnival's future tradition. Junior Carnival does a similar thing. When these young masqueraders don a costume to jump Carnival, they are embodying a carnivalesque spirit and connecting with a liberating energy that is theirs by cultural inheritance. In doing so, the junior masqueraders expand the boundaries of participation, keeping the cultural space open through generational renewal. The Junior Carnival Parade also holds deep meaning for those of us on the sidelines. As spectators, we witness creativity in motion through the vibrant pageantry of design, theme, and storytelling that unfolds. Dennery segment. One of the elements differentiating our carnival from any other is also a lesson in meaning-making and in creating space in sections. Dennery segment emerged from a community of young Saint Lucians seeking expression and validation through a different musical voice. They essentially formed their own section, a space where their particular rhythms and experiences could find expression. Then they earned recognition from this new musical identity throughout the region. Dennery segment breathed a different energy into the carnival, as well as bringing visibility to the local music sector. It may not be for all, but it is undeniably a carnival identifier and emblematic of meaning-making and evolution in the carnival. Carnival bands similarly carve out space for masqueraders and revelers seeking different experiences on the road. Tribe of 12, and before them rituals, carved out sections for those seeking mass with meaning, theatrical storytelling and craftsmanship for masqueraders in search of liberating, validating carnival experiences. Participation was also an invitation to kinship, offering a sense of belonging that extended beyond the road. These masqueraders are performing acts of cultural reclamation, reveling in deliberate counterpoint and resistance to a single aesthetic of mass. Barry George's Carnival Band intentions for 2025 similarly attempt to speak to and for communities seeking to keep traditional mass alive by embracing evolution. By proposing to fill what he sees as a void, space is being claimed on the grounds of affordability and cultural heritage relevance. Expressions signals a desire to redefine access on local terms and to offer an alternative to the increasingly commercialized carnival landscape. And the so-called party bands, Just for Fun, Zuvo, Fusion, Legends, and others, offer revelers a particular iteration of the mass. High energy, carefree, immersive escape, aligning with a consumer-oriented mass experience without necessarily abandoning cultural resonance. This section within Caribbean carnivals, labeled Pretty Mass or Bikini and Beads Mass, is also about reclaiming space for the body as mass itself. The body is not simply adorned, it becomes the primary site of performance, meaning-making, and liberation. Scholars have argued that such embodied practices challenge respectability politics and redefine mass through felt experience rather than elaborate costuming. In those traditions, the skin-exposing, body-centered aesthetic enables embodied freedom, gendered resistance, and self-assertion in public space. But whatever your choice of band, we convey so much when we say, with the statement and with the act, I jump in this year. Lucians don't say play, we don't play mass. We jump carnival. The use of jumping is profound. Think about what the body does when it jumps. Jumping is rupture, a break from routine, from decorum, from respectability. Jumping is refusal. Refusal to be still, refusal to be small, refusal to be silent. To jump, I had a wrong slide. To jump is to let go. It is motion, yes, but it is also declaration, a physical manifestation of social liberation. To jump is to claim space loudly, joyfully, unapologetically. The other important participant taking up space in the Lucian Carnival is the spectator. As with all cultural performance and festivals, there is always audience, real and perceived. Carnival spectators line the streets so they too can experience the joy and liberation, albeit vicariously. Perhaps they do not think themselves brave enough to put themselves on display for public consumption. Or perhaps such exhibition clashes with moral and religious aspects of their being. Whatever the reason, the fact of their bearing witness to a performance wherein bodies, sound, and spectacle collide to enact joy, resistance, memory, and belonging in public space, that carries meaning. That space offers them liberation by proxy. And still, it is communal in its essence. The celebration is no less muted for its mediated experience. Their imagination placing themselves in those costumes and thereby accessing the emotions and psychological effects that carnival and revelry brings. The opportunity for reflection and critique is as deep, weighty, and empowering as if they reveled in the streets. The encounter of reveler and observer is a communal bonding, emotional uplift, and socially charged engagement. At times, It does, as it must, make the watcher uncomfortable, force them to confront themselves in the realities being played out, some of which they wish to ignore but cannot turn away from. And at other times, watching is an opportunity to vicariously experience the aspiration and ascension to higher selves that are captured in theme and portrayal. When Carnival stops moving people, be it emotionally, imaginatively, politically, the crowd stops watching. The affective link is broken, and the road feels less theirs. The audience disengages and disappears when the spectacle fails to generate affective resonance. When performance becomes surface and no longer offers the emotional and symbolic entry points that tether spectators to the meaning of the carnivaling moment, they disappear. These examples show us something important about the carnival space, that getting in your section is not a passive act. It is a rallying cry to expand Lucian Carnival's capacity to hold different expressions, articulations, meanings, generations, communities. Each of these initiatives, whether school tours, youth competition, genre innovation, or alternative band formation, represents a claim to cultural space. These aren't just performances. They are practices of emplacement. They ensure that Carnival's cultural terrain remains open, not just accessible, but expansive. The genius of Carnival is that it creates space for multiple meanings to coexist through people's actual participation. The current iteration of Lucian Carnival offers opportunity for transformation and adaptation. Drawing from Errol Hill, I offer this narrative of resilience on the grounds that preservation and development of Carnival will be determined by circumstances beyond anybody's control and will depend on the renowned ingenuity of the masquerader to respond to those conditions. Resilience in this context is not merely survival. It is the capacity of cultural practitioners to hold space in conditions that threaten to collapse it. To press on is to insist that Carnival remain open to those for whom it means community, critique, and cultural grounding. Carnival spaces are arenas where communities negotiate cultural meaning through collective practice. Continued relevance requires conscious cultural work and community agency to preserve what matters most to participants. Ultimately, Caribbean carnivals transcend mere entertainment. They affirm identity and challenge social hierarchies through freedom, catharsis, and resistance. Carnivals open space, literal and symbolic, for identity to be performed, contested, and reclaimed. This is not spectacle. It is social negotiation in motion. Plain talk, bad manners. We often speak of Carnival as inclusive, but inclusivity is not automatic. Carnival is a contested space. Inclusivity is something you have to work towards. It is allowing for liberation and commodification to coexist, and for different stakeholders to compete for space, attention, visibility, access, legitimacy, and control. If we fail to acknowledge this, we risk romanticizing its tensions and flattening its politics. The concern of making space is about ensuring that Lucian Carnival does not become so curated within a pretty mass aesthetic that masqueraders feel they cannot find a place. From policies to marketing to sponsorship, maintaining Carnival's ethos of inclusivity means ensuring variety in the types of activities prioritized on the calendar, as well as the choices for masquerading in costume on public streets. Now, other Caribbean carnivals are instructive here. Trinidad Carnival simultaneously houses Canboulay reenactments. That's them telling themselves the story of their origin. Every Friday morning. You leave a party 4 o'clock in the morning, you go home, you change your shoes, and you find yourself behind the bridge, to commune and to reorient yourself in what the carnival means. So it houses that. There's traditional carnival characters. There's stick fighting rituals. There are pan competitions, calypso, soca, chutney, juve, small bands, medium bands, commercial bands, community carnivals. It houses variety. For some persons, carnival is about ritual and tradition. For others, it's about the fete and revelry. And for still others, it is an opportunity for protest, to bring attention to socioeconomic and political issues, mass as advocacy. Grenada's Spice Mass is another example. Different articulations in the same space, drawing participants wanting different experiences. A Granada's Carnival is a different energy to Guav's raw, powerful, and deeply connected, heritage-rich enactment, where jab roam and own the streets, engaging in energetic dance and playful antics and interacting with the audience. The segmentation does not diminish the whole, it strengthens it. Saint Lucian Carnival landscape has the capacity for a similarly multifaceted space that accommodates different meanings and narratives of Carnival. Carnival participation and spectatorship would reveal segments who fall into different categories and want different things out of their Carnival experience. For some St. Lucians, their Carnival is calypso and tent. And so Carnival culminates with calypso finals. They do not ever reach the road. Others live for the liberating energy of Juve and the satirical hilarity of Old Mass, and yet have never donned the costume to partake in the organized chaos that is Monday and Tuesday Carnival. For others, Carnival is fete after fete after fete after fete, and the road is an extension of the fete. And there are those for whom the 2 days on the road are theater in the streets, communing with spirits and in spirits, with costumes that embody the themes and portrayals and are emblematic of Carnival as cultural heritage. Multiple Carnival experiences can coexist productively within one celebration. Each section contributes to the whole while serving distinct individual and collective needs and cultural functions. Preservation is not stasis. It is the ability to move within shifting terrain. As Carnival evolves, its openness depends on our capacity to reformulate space while retaining meaning. This capacity to reconfigure meaning, assert visibility, and refuse marginalization is what cultural theorists describe as cultural agency. the power of individuals and communities to shape, contest, reproduce culture on their own terms. Stuart Hall reminds us, culture is not a fixed inheritance. It is a site of struggle where meaning is made and remade and sometimes wrestled back through action. Despite my choice of song, it's not a split in the middle. The dynamism of Carnival means it gets articulated differently. Carnival is cultural expression, functioning as sites of cultural memory, resistance, and community formation. And Carnival is cultural product, operating within what George Eudes calls the expediency of culture, where cultural practices are strategically repositioned to meet economic objectives. It's not a value judgment, nor is it a line of evolution. It's Carnival's capacity for holding contradiction. The experience of the mass camps was not the business of making costumes. They functioned as extended kinship networks. Old Mass, like our Calypso tents, have always functioned as public commentary. Its placards and parodies cutting deep, mocking power with the kind of cultural hilarity that tells truth loudly and on its own terms. This is the temporary suspension of social hierarchies that creates what scholars call communitas. This is Carnival serving its traditional functions of building community, preserving heritage, and providing space for resistance. As cultural product, Carnival is mobilized primarily for economic and political purposes, influenced by corporate sponsorship, tourism demands, and marketed as exotic spectacle for international consumption. Preserving Carnival as meaningful cultural expression while packaging it as a national product for the world stage is a complex balancing act, eliciting celebration and critique in equal measure. Carnival in Saint Lucian, the larger Caribbean, has never been a two-day festive event, even though it looks that way on the surface. Carnival has always been an institution at the nexus of culture, politics, and commerce. Carnival is constantly evolving and adapting, yet never losing its way. Because at the end of the day, the road is the road is the road. And the road made to walk. Come on, Nan, sing with me. And the road made to walk on Carnival Day. Exactly so. Yeah? Carnival, understanding Carnival in essence requires recognizing multiplicity.
Now, allow we do it now. Step forward, I move forward, I step forward. Everybody, alle, 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 alle.
Supporting Carnival demands that we embrace its polyphonic nature. Many voices, many visions, all sharing the road. Keeping that road open is a balancing act between heritage and innovation, grassroots energy and global reach, cultural meaning, and economic momentum. There are signs that augur well for its sustainability. Youth participation is expanding through sections like the school tours, junior carnival, junior panorama, schools calypso, and soca monarch. The persistence of community carnivals, in fact, the rise of community carnivals, and inclusion on the national calendar holds space for localized articulations of carnival culture. The CPMC, as a multi-stakeholder body, provides stable institutional coordination. To keep cultural space open, as the nature of carnival demands, is to recognize that every policy decision, budget allocation, and program action, both in intention and in implementation, either widens the road or narrows it. Ensuring diversity in activity, access, and audience is how we continue to keep the carnival culturally significant. The real work for all these section leaders is in making sure the road does not narrow. Now, toward this end, I lean towards the framework of inward stretch, outward reach, offered by Caribbean cultural theorist par excellence, Rex Nettleford. Yeah? Proposes this concept of inward stretch and outward reach because moving forward with our carnival requires a double gesture, a deepening of carnival's roots as well as a widening of its reach. This inward stretch means remaining grounded in our stories, our rhythms, our ritual logics, our own cultural narratives. A deep grounding in self, cultural identity, memory, community, creative autonomy. Whatever the contemporary articulation of carnival, it must center the needs of its constituents, preserving multiple meanings and holding space for contradiction is part of the inward stretching. And from that groundedness, we can then extend outward reach, not merely as marketing to the outsider gaze, but as confident cultural expression. A carnival culture that is very much in place, active, alive, and available in the normal circumstances for the guest to come and enjoy. Rex Nettleford told us, dig it up for yourself first, and then invite others to the table. Having centered our own meaning making, we can confidently navigate globalized pressures, shifting values, which is what we heard about earlier, and the external spectatorship. Developing culture with cultural integrity. Engagement with the world, not as subservience or mimicry, but with confidence, agency, and rootedness. So, we reach back at Massey. We have traversed the route, not the one physical route of Carnival Monday and Tuesday, which we all know causes congestion, disrupts flow, and creates bottlenecks. Instead, the road you jumped with me revealed that while the street route may be singular, the cultural routes through Carnival have infinite possibilities. The Carnival shifts and turns and jumps and winds down low. Or like Invader tell us, it bend down low. Depending on time, context, and stakeholder influence. Carnival is messy. It is unrestrained. It is defiant. It's the dirtiness of a J'ouvert morning, the jabbing wit of Old Mass, the deliberate crassness of language use, the liberties of tent and the persistence of tent pines. And it is sequins and feathers galore. So even as I attempt to present neat sections, I admittedly might be working against the Carnival logic. The point is this. Meaningful continuity depends on locating a section for everyone. Traditionalists, modernists, tent lovers, old mass, theatrical spectacle makers, pretty mass devotees, young, mature, all bodies, all carnival expressions. Whether your carnival is tent, panya, juve, fete after fete, or the road, space must be made. The challenge isn't that change occurs. The challenge is how we respond to preserve Carnival's core functions: community building, creative expression, identity affirmation. When Carnival feels Lucian, bringing together diverse players in creative celebration, we maintain space for multiple articulations to coexist. This is the deeper meaning of space for everyone. It requires active maintenance of a carnival that prioritizes vitality, sustainability, and that comes from playing ourselves in all our diverse manifestations. The value of Carnival, both economically and culturally, is in its distinctive Saint Lucianness. The beauty of Lucian Carnival is in its dynamic multiism. Many things, all valid. And the road is wide enough for all of us. So get in your section and proclaim it. Let me hear you. The road is mine. Come on. One more time. The road is mine. Let me hear you again. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Anthea Octave. I remember in my discussion with Dr. Octave this morning, I told her, I think you'll have so many questions after your presentation. And she said, well, I don't have answers. I have opinions. And I dare say that she has some very well thought out, well articulated, and very relevant opinions. And we thank you, Dr. Octave, for joining us this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, our time is so brief. But Dr. Octave, I would like you to indulge the audience. We will take just 2 questions. We do have roaming team members in the back, so if you would like to ask a question, just raise your hands. And to those of you joining us online, we do invite you as well to ask your questions there. Hands up. We have Mr. Esteban in the back of the room.
Hello, good evening to everybody. Just one question. Last year, I observed that we had a very small audience as it pertains to the spectators in Carnival. It was the first time I was walking through Carnival, and I realized I could just walk through town so easily. Though we had like a large audience as it pertains to participants on the road, our audience who comes out to watch Carnival is declining. So what can we do to encourage people to participate in Carnival as spectators? And in my observation, after experiencing Dominica Carnival, I realized that in Dominica Carnival, there's a period of time where everybody can emerge into the Carnival experience after a particular time. That's something that happened many years ago in St. Lucia. And I'm wondering, is there some way we can recreate something of that nature? Perhaps, in my suggestion, that the government of St. Lucia put a truck on the road for a final jump up for everybody. Thank you.
I finally answer your own question, you know. Yeah, but I offered some of it in the presentation. Yeah, it has to connect to the audience. Yeah, I can't give you the answers. I don't work at CPMC. They haven't hired me yet. Right? But it's meaning. It comes back to meaning. Because if the spectators can't find the meaning, if they can't find the thing to watch, yeah, so it comes back to curating the space in ways that gives them something to watch, yeah, and that fulfills that desire that they have for the carnival. And you offered a suggestion as well. Yeah? I do good?
We do have another question.
Adrian, no hard questions now.
Why the hell you come here?
I don't know.
No, that's not the question. First of all, let me say thanks. I think you were balanced, and you clearly didn't bash anybody. So, well done, diplomatic. But I don't have those restrictions. So I want to echo a concern expressed by Esteban that there are fewer and fewer spectators on the road. You can come down from 𝐻𝐻𝐽 to Vici Field and see nobody except yourself and each other. One of the issues that is connected to that is that even the judging point has no audience space. So we're performing more and more for ourselves, which speaks to something about the self-indulgence of the festival and its shrinking national resonance, something that you mentioned. So there are fewer and fewer spectators, possibly suggesting a declining cultural coexistence, which you also mentioned, and a resonance. And I think that policy should ensure that there is not a falsely framed competition between old and new, authentic and evolved, traditional, young, etc., etc. And we are, in fact, creating that false competition. And you spoke very eloquently, if diplomatically, for coexistence. Carnival must be many things to many people because nobody has the authority to define what it is or what it should be. And the people who are engineering the evolution, which can also be the devolution of Carnival, have yet to say where they want this thing to go. And so when I hear young mothers, young fathers, young families saying, me, Mr. Oje, not bringing my children on the road to watch that, I worry. Because I would like them to hear also what I have to say as an artist, as a writer, as a carnival, as a mask maker, as a band, as an artist. I would like to know that somebody cares, that somebody will see and maybe be moved and maybe think about what we are trying to say in our expression. If culture is identity, then what is happening to identity when Carnival devolves? What is happening to empowerment when Carnival devolves or dissolves or becomes this entirely self-indulgent expression? I was telling somebody today, you know, black people had to fight, you know, for the right to go in town in their costume, to take over the streets, to take over the city, to be seen, to tell police, excuse me, I pass in with my costume, you stand up there and leave me alone. And that struggle is not over. What?
Or to pelt fire behind the police.
Exactly. Or even to go and wind up on a policeman and you have to stand up there and take it.
Take it. Yeah, let's take it.
All right? We had to fight for that. And when people tell me Carnival can go up on the Millennium Highway so as not to be a nuisance in the city, that is counterintuitive to where the Carnival come from. The Carnival is a right to go in town and disrupt traffic and make them give us a holiday because we have things to say and we have things to do and we have things to show and we have things to be. And they must close down the city and give it room because that resistance is important to the societies that we are building, the people we are trying to become. The struggle is not over. And we cannot afford to drink rum and wind down all day thoughtlessly, because every moment is a moment for development, for thinking. Yes, we can free up, yes, but then when we get all this power to be free, what are we going to do with it? What are we going to think about ourselves? What are we going to tell the children? What are we going to tell the children? I ain't finished yet.
I know you ain't finished. It's me that know.
So what do we wish to do with all that power, Dr. Akhtar? That power that we are claiming, that space that we are claiming, what do we wish to do with it? As people of purpose, what do we wish to do with it? And where is our advocative voice? Where is our agency that you spoke about? What's our agenda? What's our intent? It cannot be just mindless madness in the street. It's expensive. Oh, you can borrow money for that now, you know. You can finance that. You can get a higher purchase mass. It's wonderful, as if you don't have children to feed in August. And if it is about owning the streets, and it's about claiming the city, and it's about speaking our truth, and leveraging the global attention that we are bringing to ourselves, then what are we going to do with it? And why is the tourism industry extra-regionally telling us that they're not interested in Caribbean Carnival anymore because it has no cultural content? What is that? What is that? So we have no cultural content. Wow, that's amazing. And if freedom of the body is important, surely we are more than body, we are also mind. So where is the freedom of the mind to think, to express, to consult, to challenge, to question? And why is Calypso suffering? Because it is. Because it is. And even the penis will tell you that. So we're becoming a society where Calypso, which is part of media, which is part of the checks and balances in our societies, Calypsonians are afraid to sing political songs now because they will be called by the party in power that they have offended and asked, why are you singing that? And they will cower because they want to be on the next Carifesta or whatever, or the next jaunt or whatever. So we have to ask ourselves, this is not Dubai. There you go. So this is not just about mindless celebration. This has to have intent. It has to have advocacy. And there must be space in the carnival for everybody. And that is what us traditionalists, which is a euphemism for old people that will dead just now,
no.
Thank God. You know? There must be space for everybody, but there must also be intent. And the role of government has to be to make space to ensure that the diversity of the celebration remains and is preserved, and not simply to go with the trend because people want to party. We can party, yes, but we must also be thinking people. And if the carnival allows us to do that, then we must hold on to it. So who will we be when those voices are gone? Do we want a St. Lucia without the Tribe of 12? Because you will get it. You will get it very soon. So you need to ask yourselves, do you want a carnival without the Tribe of 12? Because we're the last dinosaurs on the block. And ain't nobody coming in the mass camp to study what we're doing. We try. And that is not true. We have some wonderful young people, but it's too few and it's too late, and we have to consider whether we want it. So I will stop just now. So in short, Carnival is a macrocosm, and it must stay wide and diverse and free and accessible, and we are pricing a lot of people out of the Carnival with this thing that we are doing. So it is being evacuated out of the spirit of the people into something else. And the Carnival in 1947 was when Carnival achieved the respectability of a certain light-skinned bourgeoisie that was imitative, not liberative. Imitative, and that is when we decided Carnival had arrived because a bunch of high brown people, including my grandmother, decided that this Carnival thing was suddenly socially worthy. And that's when you started getting the high brown girls becoming Carnival queens. And we then had to undo that and then all of a sudden, brown girls and dark girls who became carnival queens. That struggle is not over. I will rest. I will rest there.
So, I cannot and will not attempt to address the very layered second presentation you did, right? But here's what I know, right? Here's what I know, and here's what I believe. I don't believe in death. There's no such thing as cultural death. I don't believe in that, right? Because here's what I know. When a thing has meaning, when it has relevance, it will find a way, right? Anytime, and we have examples. I mean, of course, Trinidad is always the example, right? Anytime, right? Top-down approach. Anytime there's too much attempt to control the things that the belly needs to say, what does the belly do? Yeah? So I know that. That is not what I was going for, but okay. Right? So I know that, right? I know that we have the example of that, right? I know that culture in a lot of ways is cyclical, right? Couple years ago, yes, I know a few years ago stick fighting was disappearing, right? Nobody was in the Gael, right? Nobody was coming to the Gael, right? And for whatever reason, which we ain't going to go into right now, but the reasons, people found new meaning in it. Yeah, people found that it was able to speak for them in ways that they didn't have the words for. Gael have people again watching stick fighting. Yeah? So, yes, it's a problem. Yes, it is an absolute problem. Right? But the only people to change that is the people in it. No outsider can come and fix that. No government go in and fix that. Yeah? It's the people in it. That's what I know. That's all I know. I don't know nothing else.
Ladies and gentlemen, Shane, you have 1 minute. 1 minute. This will be our last question for the evening.
I promise I will not be like Adrian. Let me just say, Aunt Pierre, thank you so much for your lecture tonight. It was wonderful. I expected nothing less from you. I was just shocked to hear you singing. And those who know. Right? And also, Adrian, thank you for your mini lecture as well. Thank you so much. Okay, so last night I watched a documentary on Carnival in Jacmel. Thank you, Fiona, in Haiti. And like many others in the room, I couldn't help but reflect on the shifting nature of St. Lucia's own carnival. Are we in fact witnessing the loss of its original meaning, once a deeply rooted liturgical ritual of spiritual release, resistance, and cultural expression? And we often say that many of today's revelers jump without truly knowing why. They're disconnected from the traditions shaped by cultural architects like Roddy Walcott, Sikra Gibson, Miss Booty, and Adrian Auger. But tonight you introduced a phrase that sort of shifted my thinking, cultural syncretism. Could it be that what we've perceived as cultural erosion, especially with the migration of Carnival from its brilliant and February roots to the more commercially strategic month of July, is actually the emergence of a new cultural expression, one shaped by time, tourism, and economic forces? Have we perhaps unknowingly created a new carnival, one still bearing traces of the old, yet redefined by the taste, the aesthetics, and expectations of a new generation of participants and spectators who may find the traditional carnival no longer sexy enough for the experience of celebration? And do we accept it as that?
I'm not going to accept for nobody. All right. Seriously, though, it comes back to the question of who is Carnival for? Who is Carnival for? Who is in it? What meaning are they making of it? It always comes back to that, right? And again, whether it's cyclical or whether it is cyclical, yeah? It goes, it ebbs and flows, and it comes back again, right? And as we had the conversation this morning, right, culture is always about context. So when you look at what's happening in the carnival now that you're dissatisfied with, the larger question is, what is going on in wider society that you're seeing played out in the carnival, yeah? And that perhaps addressing the wider society issues might offer you a different pathway for the carnival. I don't know.
Ladies and gentlemen, join me in thanking Dr. Octave once again. And just like that, we bring this evening's journey for our carnival story to a close. Thank you for joining us for l'Histoire Carnival, an important moment of reflection, reconnection, and celebration of everything that makes Lucian Carnival uniquely ours. But the rhythm continues. We invite you to join us throughout the season for our various events. I would have mentioned the final quarterfinal show happening tomorrow, the motorcade, there's soca, there's gospel-lypso. There's so many events under the Lucian Carnival calendar, and I encourage you to find the one that best suits you and to show up and show out for our culture. A reminder that for updates on events relating to Lucian Carnival, to visit us at www.carnivalstlucia.com or to connect with us on @CarnivalSt.Lucia on social media. Until the next event, we say thank you, travel safely, and let's continue to feel the spirit and embody the vibe of Lucian Carnival, because there's truly nothing sweeter than that. Thank you. Also, we do have some refreshments and beverages in the lobby, and thank you again for joining us.